It's game day. It's time to talk position battles. In the still of the night, leading up to the first game day of the Denver Broncos 2025 season, the Odyssey is underway. The joint practice is in the books, and we are within hours of the first game glimpse of your 2025 Denver Broncos. Yeah, it's preseason, and yeah, the 49ers will not be playing their starters, but still, it's going to reveal a little something. You see those two guys there in the picture. That's Jaleel McLaughlin on the left and J.K. Dobbins on the right. Dobbins is in pretty good shape, but Jaleel McLaughlin is in an interesting battle, and one that is kind of different because Jaleel's kind of in a spot where he's kind of a gadget back, as it were. Change of paces, how Sean Payton refers to him. So he might be the third team running back, but not necessarily the third running back. And what does that mean for his place on the roster? Good morning. It is morning. It's even morning here in the Pacific time zone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I know if you're watching this on delay, if you're watching this when the sun is out, welcome. If you're watching this overnight, welcome. And welcome to game day. The first game day of 2025, like I said, for the Denver Broncos. It's here. Your waiting is over. It has been 8 months since the playoff loss in Orchard Park, New York. A disappointing day, but still, I think, a day that realistically not many people, even the most optimistic, expected the Broncos would have last year. And they had it. But now this is a year of expectations. Not just within the building, but if you believe the intel of Matthew Berry talking about how somebody unnamed in the Chiefs front office said that they're wary of the Broncos and believe they might make a challenge, well, then other people believe it too. So the adventure begins here in Santa Clara, California, just down the road at Levi Stadium from where I sit right now. So the position battles to watch. So you start with running back, backup running back, of course. And it's very interesting to think about who the third running back is. And first of all, even though it may end up being Jaleel McLaughlin as the third running back in uniform, if something happens to RJ Harvey or J.K. Dobbins, and you have to think about that possibility with J.K. Dobbins because he has missed more games than he has played in his career, this is just something where you've got to be realistic with the arc of his career. You have to face the facts. You can be optimistic about what he can bring and hopeful, but you also have to accept that the trends say he'll probably miss some time this year. Probably a best case scenario for J.K. Dobbins is 10 to 12 games. So at some point, you'll have to accept and go through life without him. So assuming that Jaleel McLaughlin stays in the role, and that, assuming he makes the 53, and he stays in the role of change of pace, the running back who fills in is going to be one of Audric Estime, Blake Watson, or Tyler Badie. And one of those three would assume RB1 or RB2 status. Tyler Badie is the most complete back of those three right now. He's the best pass protector of those three, and that is something that matters. This is his fourth camp. So that's part of the reason why he's the best pass protector. He's been in the NFL the longest, even though much of that experience is practice squad experience, practice field experience. He knows his way around. Audric Estime has had a terrific training camp. And I think this Saturday night could be a big moment for him. It's an opportunity for him. It's an opportunity for Blake Watson as well. He's had a very good training camp. The wheels have been there. They've been spinning fast. As when he's had those creases, he's been decisive and he's gone through them. There's been a spark from him. There's been a spark of power from Audric Estime as well. But there isn't room for all of these guys on the 53. The interesting thing with Badie is he's the most complete back, but he's also somebody who at cut down day has passed through waivers unclaimed in multiple years. And the question becomes, do the Broncos, even if they believe he would be the player to fill in for Harvey or Dobbins if they're injured, do they see him as somebody that they believe could pass through to the practice squad? Do they roll the dice on him getting to the practice squad and tell him, hey, look, you're the next man up. If something happens to one of those two guys, you'll get the elevations. And we know this, Sean Payton, when he promises players are going to get elevations, he keeps his promises. Ask Lil Jordan Humphrey. Ask Michael Burton. That's one thing that his word is as strong as oak, and that's not like in Jerry Maguire where Cush's dad says his word is as strong as oak and then goes back on it and then signs with another agent, signs with Bob Sugar. In this case, it really is strong as oak. So is that something that happens? Now, Badie not being a vested veteran, any team could claim him, but the fact that he's passed through waivers multiple times, the fact that he is now 3 draft classes removed from his rookie year of 2022, which means there's 3 years of running backs since then who are more likely to be claimed off waivers than Badie, perhaps. That would probably mean there's a pretty good shot he would pass through. and the Broncos could move him to practice squad. So that's another thing that could come into play in any decisions, that they may say, okay, we like Estime and we like Badie, but Estime may be more likely to get plucked off waivers than Badie. And so maybe Estime sticks on the 53 and Badie gets waived, and then Badie's on the practice squad. But perhaps Badie could be the next man up if something happens to Harvey or Dobbins. I mean, all these things are in play. I mean, we know Sean Payton and George Payton are going to play the roster gymnastics game. They do that very well. So that's also a possibility to think about. But determining how that running back room is going to shake out, a big data point is going to be what we see Saturday night, and then what we see next Saturday against Arizona, and then the following Saturday in New Orleans. And don't think for a second this is going to be decided before that Saints game. I think this is one of those situations, at least running back, where they're going to they're going to keep collecting the data until the final moment, if it's close. I think Sean Payton did say you'll know by the New Orleans game. So he's basically saying you'll know at the end of the preseason, kind of based on what you see. But I don't think we may not know entirely before then just how it's going to shake out. But I think it'll probably be obvious to all of us how it's going to shake out in terms of who's going to be that next man up. And we know that next man up at running back probably will be called on extensively at some point, simply because J.K. Dobbins probably will not make it through 17 games unscathed. So this is going to be really important. This player is going to, at some point this season, play a huge role for the Denver Broncos. Because if Dobbins misses some time and if Harvey misses some time, I don't think you're going to see the Broncos go to a bell cow running back. I think you're going to see them continue to divide the reps. So the backup running back is important. And that's why I think it's the top position battle to watch in this. And frankly, I want to see plenty of running in this game because I want to see this sort itself out. You think they moved to zone blocking, moved Harvey up the Broncos board, or they draft Harvey and they decide to move to zone blocking? That's a good question, and it's kind of a chicken or egg thing. I can't answer that for certain because I don't know the answer to that specifically. So it would only be speculation on my part. Now, you're always studying other schemes, and one thing we do know is we're in year 3 of this offense, and thus year 3 with the scheme and year 2 with Bo Nix, but specifically year 3 with the scheme and year 3 with these offensive linemen means you do start expanding the menu a little bit. So I would lean towards this happening and being thought of before Harvey was drafted. I would lean toward that, but that's just my speculation. So, Badie, practice squad candidate. Yeah, this is the debate. They need to keep Badie on the active roster or practice squad candidate. I mean, do you want to roll the dice? That's the thing. And you're projecting what other teams might do. I mean, it may also come down to a situation where, in terms of the room, I mean, how much do you value Jaleel McLaughlin being the change of pace? And do you want to have a roster spot on the 53 for change of pace? Or is that roster spot better used on somebody else? That's another thing to consider too. Does change of pace for, say, anywhere from 2 to 5 or 6 touches a game, does that matter? And then the other thing that matters is roll on kickoff returns. If there's a running back next to Marvin Mims Jr. who ends up being best suited for that job, that may end up determining the third or fourth running back on the 53 as well. If Jaleel McLaughlin ends up being that guy, then I think Jaleel ends up being a lock for the roster. If not, I mean, I think my co-host Cecil Lammy says like 99.5%. I'm not saying 99.5% on Jaleel. I'm not going there. That's, but Cecil tends to be more of a radio guy and go to like more of the extremes than I do. Takes a lot for me to get to the extreme. I'm not going there. I'm not so certain. Where, I'm more of a gray area guy. What I am certain about is that I like talking with you guys in the wee small hours of the morning. And it is the wee small hours of the morning back in the Mile High City, because I know it's 1:20 in the morning back there as I do this. Forgive me for the water. I'm a little thirsty tonight. It's a nice night, by the way, out here in the San Jose area. I went to a San Jose Giants game, minor league baseball. A lot of fun against the Visalia Rawhide. That's a nickname right there. The minor league, the California League affiliate of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Good time. Beautiful night for baseball. Gorgeous. Perfect. Beautiful sunset over the mountains off in the distance. Lovely sky. Beautiful night. Great food. They had a barbecue stand down the left field line. Some tri-tip. That's a, tri-tip sandwich. Just perfect night. Perfect night out here. So, uniform schedule from Technosfile. Have not. All we know is it's coming soon. It just hasn't come yet. It usually comes later in the preseason. So I would actually expect maybe we might hear this week because, of course, the first home game, it's preseason, but the first home game is next Saturday. So I would reckon we would hear the coming days about the uniform schedule. So let's see. That's what I think. Sean will have many difficult decisions, which is actually a good thing. Yeah, and actually, difficult decisions. I want to go to another one. And I spent a little time today writing about this, and you'll be able to read on Saturday morning my preview of the game at denversports.com, but I'm going to talk about it here. A below-the-radar position battle, but I think it's one of the most interesting, is on the defensive line. So, Sai'Vion Jones, third-round pick. That third-round status tells you he's going to be on the team, which then means you've got, obviously, DJ Jones with that contract, he's on the team. Zach Allen with his contract extension, he's on the team. John Franklin Myers, he's got his contract extension potentially, which hasn't happened, but he's having a terrific camp. He had a very good day on Thursday, and Malcolm Roach is having a good camp. He's emerged as a good pass rusher in addition to being a run stuffer, and he's the heart and soul of that room. You need him. And then Sai'Vion Jones is going to be on the team as a third-round pick. And usually you keep 6 D linemen as a 3-4 team. So last year, defensive lineman number 5 was Jordan Jackson, and defensive lineman number 6 was Enyi Uwazurike. Most weeks, Uwazurike was inactive. If everyone was healthy, Enyi didn't get a jersey. Jordan Jackson was D lineman number 5. And Jackson made a very good acquittal of himself as a rotational D lineman in his first year. Active, persistent, tenacious, energetic when he came in. Just exactly what you wanted from a fifth defensive lineman. And he's had a good camp. And he had a great day on Thursday. I would say, if you were saying, give me 4 players who stood out for the Broncos on Thursday, he might not just be in the top 4. He might have been the guy who got the most gold stars from me. Now, granted, I was paying a little more attention to the defensive field than the offensive field in the cluster of reporters that we were kind of dividing and conquering. I was watching the offense between plays when I could, but if I had to default to anything, I was watching the defense, and Jordan Jackson was just a monster. So having a good camp, often in the backfield, and then in the joint practice, wreaking havoc. Enyi Uwazurike has had a terrific camp. He's been a beast out there. And really starting to show that interior pass rush potential that he had at Iowa State that put him on the Broncos' radar. The suspension obviously waylaid his progress. That cost him 2023. And frankly, he spent last year trying to get back into the groove after losing that season. And now finally appears to be back on track. So Sai'Vion Jones right now, probably, even though he's having a good camp, makes the team, but probably ends up being the guy who maybe doesn't get a jersey right away. And that's okay. It doesn't say anything bad about him. It's testament to the quality of Jordan Jackson and Enyi Uwazurike, that Uwazurike is taking a step forward and Jordan Jackson isn't doing anything to regress from last year. He's advancing. So what do? Sean Payton often talks about how you don't like to let talent out of the building. That the thing, and this is always something that looms over every roster decision, that the thing that drives him crazy, that gnaws at him, is he doesn't sit there a year or two from now and regret letting a young, talented player go and watch him succeed somewhere else. This is something that if anything, keeps him up at night, football-wise, in August. It's that. And when you're thinking about what Sean Payton and the Broncos might do roster-wise, think about that he doesn't want to be sitting there a year or two from now and some guy that they cut goes somewhere else and balls out. And they think, man, we had that guy in our building and we couldn't find room for him, and he's flourishing somewhere else. I think they would rather let go of a veteran who maybe is at a point where they know he's all he can be and it's at a decent level, but that's his ceiling, rather than let go of a younger guy who maybe has a higher ceiling but hasn't reached it yet, because they don't want to live with that regret. And so when you see Uwazurike stepping forward and you see Jordan Jackson stepping forward, and Jordan Jackson's only in his second year and he looks like this just diamond in the rough that they found, and Uwazurike now finally getting some polish with time, and he's showing signs of being that disruptive interior force. I could see a situation where instead of keeping 6 D linemen, they keep 7, which means you have to go light somewhere else. And I could see that happening because they say, well, we don't want to let Jackson out of the building, and we don't want to let Enyi out of the building. So that's something to bear in mind. So that's a terrific competition right now between Jackson and Uwazurike, and it may end up leading to both being on the 53. But, man, Jordan Jackson on Thursday, gosh, man. And he's got length, too. Like, he doesn't just have a motor. He's got length, and he's learning better how to use the length to his advantage. So, anyway, Sean's biggest fear, letting talent out of the building and then having it come back to haunt you. Like, I think come back to haunt you and come back to beat you. Or I think it bothers him just if he sees it on television on a Monday Night Football and he's sitting there in his office and he's like, Dad, like probably uses dad. I was going to say dad gum, but I think he uses stronger language than that when he's sitting there looking at the flat screen in his office and thinking like, I had that guy. And I had that guy and I knew he was good and I let him go. That's something to keep in mind at wide receiver as well, as we see Kyrese Rowan making play after play, Courtney Jackson making play after play, Joaquin Davis with this freakish length, Jerwan Newton making play after. We see these undrafted guys just making play after play, and there's going to be like these really tough calls. Now, the only thing about undrafted receivers that does play into the Broncos' favor is the fact that there is so much talent at wide receiver coming out on a year-to-year basis, and almost every team has a young undrafted receiver that they like, is that usually you've got a pretty good chance of being able to pass those guys through to the practice squad. Typically, those guys are going to pass through and are going to be able to stick. Because even a bad draft year for wide receivers has a lot of guys. It's not like tackle. It's not like quarterback. That's one thing that does work in your favor. So I'm a really strong believer everything happens for a reason. Yeah. I could get into a really long discussion non-football about this, but because I was having a text exchange with a friend tonight and about how we kind of have lost our faith in like karma and things like that. But anyway, I don't want to go down that road because that would make this a really depressing discussion. I don't want to. Hope you have a great night, Mace. I'm excited for Jones to sit as a depth piece and develop. I am too. And but the other thing also with Jones and Uwazurike and Jackson is as much as we all like JFM and as good as JFM has been, I think with all these young defensive linemen, and I think especially with Sai'Vion Jones, who you draft as a third rounder, and when you draft somebody in the third round, even if it's late in the third round, that is with the intention of them probably starting for you at some point. I think realistically we can see where this is probably going contractually for JFM, where it's going for the 2026 season. That's probably leading to him not being a Denver Bronco. I think that's probably the reality of things, just in terms of overall roster building. I mean, you'd like to keep every veteran, you'd like to keep every guy, but at the same time, you're going to have some churn, and you don't keep everybody. That's what I mean. They're getting some, the fact they've gotten Zach Allen done, the fact they've gotten Courtland Sutton done is great. But I mean, there's a lot more contracts. I mean, there's JFM, there's Malcolm Roach, there's Luke Wattenberg on the offensive line. He's in a contract year too. And I asked Luke about being in a contract year at the press conference that he had earlier in camp. And I admit, when I asked the question, I knew darn well what his response almost certainly was going to be. That was going to be something along the lines of, I'm not really thinking about that. I'm focused on my season, blah, blah, blah. And that was his response. And I asked it toward the end. And I'll admit I asked that question knowing what his reply was likely going to be, just to kind of get that sort of response on the record. And it's on the record. I asked the question, he answered it, and I'm not going to ask it again. It's done. Like, it's out there, it's done. That's it. I'm not going to, I asked, he answered it. And then I'm not gonna re-ask the question, because I'm not gonna pester on that. But it is something that is an issue, and it did need to be asked. It is something below the radar there. And with Wattenberg as well, he's at a position where the Broncos keep adding a young guy year after year. They drafted a day 3 interior lineman a year after Wattenberg and Alex Forsyth. A day 3 interior lineman the next year, Nick Gargiulo. And then they didn't draft one this year, but one of their priority undrafted guys on the interior offensive line was Clay Webb. Although Webb has not been center, he's been guard, but you can kind of go back, forth, guard to center, etc. Gargiulo has been a guard as well. So, anyway. How many can a practice squad have? You can have 16, and then you can have 1 international player. Now, the Broncos have the extra international player on their roster in offseason and preseason, and that's Jeremy Crawshaw as an Australian. Once they get to the regular season, Crawshaw just counts on the 53. He's not extra. He's just one of the 53. That's it. So they can then add another international player to be the extra 17th person on the practice squad if they want. And to which I say, yeah, go find an extra guy. Why not? Because why not have the 17th player? Why not have the extra to just develop and have an extra body in there? Can't hurt, right? So I would imagine they'd try to find an international player to fill that role as the 17th guy in the practice squad. So anyhow, so defensive line, I really want to touch on that, because I also want to just talk about Jordan Jackson, because he was that good on Thursday, man. Like, just, I get when I watch young players doing well and stepping up and getting better and flourishing, that fires me up. Of course, you're talking to a guy for whom my favorite week on the football calendar every year, my favorite week on this job is the week I go to the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, because those weeks are the most optimistic weeks of the year, because they're about the future and possibility and getting excited about the next generation and seeing these guys grow and develop. It's fun for me. And so that's part of why I like seeing these guys get better in training camp. I love seeing Troy Franklin start a training camp, see him making plays against some of the backups, and then he gets more opportunities against the better players on the roster, and he takes advantage of those opportunities. And okay, he has a drop in the pseudo scrimmage last Saturday, but then you fast forward 3 days and he's actually making those catches in the move of the ball period with the ones. And so you see the drop become a big play, a couple of big plays. Like, you see the missed opportunity become an opportunity that he takes advantage of. So you see the ascension, you see the progress, you see the growth. Like, that's the kind of thing I get so passionate about. So, yep. I will be at the game. Yes. And JFM could be playing his contract out. Yeah. And that's sort of the reality of things. If you've got young guys coming up, sometimes it just happens that the torch gets passed. It's the reality of the business. It's the reality of the business. And you just have to kind of accept it. There have been songs written about this. To everything there is a season. Blah blah blah. So another position I'll talk about is safety, backup safety, and this one. Sean Payton has said this, so I'll just reiterate it. It comes down to special teams. So PJ Locke, Keidron Smith, Delarrin Turner-Yell, J.L. Skinner, Sam Franklin Jr. Figuring out which ones are going to emerge, it will probably be special teams. Now, PJ Locke is in an interesting spot. He's coming off of spinal fusion surgery. He's got special teams in his background, but he hasn't done it much in the last couple of years. And of course, he has a contract where the guaranteed money is gone at this point. And the Broncos could have a significant cap savings on PJ Locke if they cut him. Now, there's a little bit of dead money if they cut him. $1 million, but they would save $4.19 million if they cut him. So does that come into play with the decision? Well, they're starting to butt up against the cap. They've had a couple of big contracts come in for the future. It may be something that factors into a decision, even though you do like the idea of having experience behind Talanoa Hufanga and Brandon Jones at safety. Is there a restructure for PJ Locke? Maybe something to get that contract down, but give him some guaranteed money. Maybe you get the cap figure down, but say, okay, it's going to be $2.5 million guaranteed. I mean, that could be in play here. So maybe you get creative. But at the same time, if he doesn't have a substantial special teams role like he did earlier in his career, does that put him very much on the bubble? That comes into play as well. J.L. Skinner had an interception on Thursday in the joint practice. J.L. Skinner has also developed into a phenomenal special teams player. Like, you watch him get down the field as a gunner, and the man moves with his hair on fire. Like, the man flies down the field. Tremendous energy in that face. J.L. Skinner, Trent Sherfield, Sam Franklin, Chris Abrams Drain. Like, these are four guys on special teams that seem to have maybe just a little more juice than everybody else in that phase. It's not to say other guys don't have it, but those four just seem to, for reasons of speed, stride, energy, they just seem to go to a little higher level when I watch them. JL especially, man, it hasn't come together for him on defense, but man, it's come together for him on the punt, on punt coverage and punt pro, like on punt coverage, punt returns, I should say. Like, and the thing I've seen is that sometimes for a player who's slower to develop on offense or defense, getting it right on teams can kind of be what is that bridge to really developing. I mean, look at PJ Locke's a great example. He established himself as a special teamer and then eventually got the chance as a safety. So, I mean, I still have hope for J.L. Skinner as a safety. When I see him, when I see him sprinting down the field and attacking, I still think to myself, okay, this is a guy that can get in the box and thump some people. So, anyway, special teams. I think Sam Franklin Jr. ends up being in the mix. I mean, they signed him for a reason. I know Darren Rizzi likes him a lot. I see JL Skinner and Darren Rizzi talking quite a bit on the practice field. So I feel like those two, just seeing them converse a lot, it seems like those are two guys that are kind of on the same page. And again, JL just in that phase, you watch him kind of going downfield to cover punts, and there's a lot of fire to him. A lot of and you need that in that phase of the game. So, and a lot of length. Yep. Can't coach that length, man. Can't coach that. You can't coach length. You can't coach speed. You can't coach stride. JL's got all three of those. Man, this is just an aside, but I just like the fact that I can sit here in the middle of the night and talk like at length about a backup safety who's a gunner on special teams. This is so cool. This is so cool. Anyway, so this is what I'm watching. I'm watching like the battle for 5th, 6th defensive lineman. I'm watching the backup safety battle. And then, of course, wide receiver to see if Troy Franklin can carry it forward, to see if Pat Bryant can keep taking some days, to see if he can make some plays in this game. And then to see these undrafted rookies that we've been talking about, each of them has flashed on the practice field, to see which ones really take it to the next level in the games. I mean, the most raw of these, of course, is Joaquin Davis out of North Carolina Central, although he might have the highest ceiling because of the 4.36 40, the vertical, the length. Like, all the tools are there, but he has probably the farthest to go in terms of the refinements of being a wide receiver. But every so often you see him reach out and pluck it, and you see the ball just kind of stick in his hands like Velcro. Like every couple of days in practice, it's like you see him make a play and you're like, man, that's some serious bleep. And it's like, okay, that's one of those guys that you want to see where he is in a year. And it's exciting. Good late night. Good late night to you, Michael. Man, this is where I wish they had an 80-man roster. And they could keep it at 80 guys. This is where I wish it was like baseball, where you could just like have a minor league system and develop them and see where they are in a couple of years. Like I was watching tonight. San Jose Giants, Visalia Rawhide. Like the Giants had the San Francisco Giants. They had their first round pick, and he was in the lineup tonight. He was batting second, and they're just starting him out, right? And then you say a year from now, he's up at a higher level. I was thinking about that for the Rockies with Kyle Karros. They drafted him 2 years ago out of UCLA, and he made a relatively rapid rise. Last year was an A-ball with Spokane. 2 months ago, I was watching him play in AA Hartford in a game in Reading, Pennsylvania against the Reading Fightin' Phils. And I was sitting about 5 rows back on the third base side watching him play for the Yard Goats. And there he is tonight with an RBI single opposite field, down liner to right, driving home the Rockies' only run. I wish you could. Sometimes I wish you could, have that like minor league to develop. Like I wish you could in the NFL that you could say, okay, we got our 53 player roster, and then we've got another 53 that we've got on a minor league team that we're going to watch on like Wednesday nights. Wouldn't that be awesome? Or that we're going to watch in the off season and see how they develop. A true minor league. I mean, gosh, like let's watch the Colorado Springs Broncos, the Pueblo Broncos play a 12-game schedule, like the Pueblo Broncos against the Reno Raiders or something like that. That would be fun. What do the Braves do to get back on track for 2026? I mean, an exorcism. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen a season in which so many things went wrong for that team. Easily the most disappointing Braves season of my lifetime. Maybe not the worst because I was around for 1988, but the most disappointing. I will say this, they had better spend money. Especially I listened to that earnings report that they had because they're a publicly traded company. And so they had an earnings report and like they'd better spend. They better not be cheap. Like that they're gonna tick off a lot of people if they're cheap. So how many Super Bowls have I been to? Okay. 25 as a fan. There's a great story. I literally found out that my dad and I had gotten tickets from a family friend about 4.5 hours before the game started. And then we turned around and went back to the Tampa Stadium and picked up the tickets. Like just wild how we managed to get tickets from a family friend who was connected with some sponsors, and there were 2 tickets that came available, and oh my goodness. And that was Giants, Bills, Scott Norwood. I actually have a picture of the kick that Norwood missed, and he's actually signed it. It says he signed it. You know, he signed it wide right. So it's it was pretty cool to be there. So 25, 35, and 36 I covered. Those are the first 2 Super Bowls I covered. So I was there for Tom Brady's first Super Bowl. So 25, 35, 36. Then the next one I went to was 48. Let's all forget about that one. 50. 51, the Tom Brady comeback, 28-3. And then the next one I was at was, so that's 6. And I've been at the last 2. So that's 8. Pretty lucky. Been to 8 Super Bowls. With any luck, I'll keep adding to that. It's fun. It's fun. I'm lucky to be able to have the chance to have gone to so many, and hopefully I'll get to add another one this year. We'll see. I mean, obviously, if the Broncos are in, I'll be there. If the Broncos aren't in, it just kind of depends on scheduling and other factors. Like last year, it worked out perfectly in New Orleans, and it worked out perfectly when it was in Vegas. 051. So, thank you, Siri. It's 051. I do 24-hour time on my watch. So, you help me understand roster building much better. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. I'm kind of a nerd for that sort of thing. Like I've actually learned a lot about practice squad management just in recent years as they've changed the practice squad rules, and there's so many more things you can do with it. It's gotten to be more fun with the elevations, with practice squad eligibility, veterans being involved with that. It used to be that there wasn't much you could do, and you could only be on the practice squad for a couple of years, and then you cycled out. And now, I mean, you could be on the practice squad for many, many years. Just more possibilities with it, and I enjoy. And I enjoy the things that go along with it. Lonnie says Norwood kick stopped Buffalo from getting in Lombardi. Yeah. It turned out it was the closest they came. Sometimes you don't realize that when you're experiencing it. When they missed that and you thought, oh, well, they might have another shot. And they had 3 more shots, and they never came closer than that. So, Braxton, hey, Mace, not to go off topic, but starting my 2nd year as a sports editor for my college paper. Any advice that helped you when you were just starting out? Ooh. Advice that helped me when I was starting out. I mean, part of, one piece of advice I got, it was part of it is just write. But I would also say that was advice that was given in the mid 90s. Nowadays, I would say sharpen your tool belt in as many ways as possible. I mean, this is, you're kind of in a the more you can do age, the better. I mean, not you gotta write well, you've got to shoot video, you've got to edit, you've got to you got to hone yourself as a broadcaster as well. I mean, take advantage of opportunities whenever they come, and even do your own thing. Just wherever you can find a platform, even if you have to create it for yourself, do it. Put it, whether it's on your college newspaper or something off to the side, just put in reps. Whatever that is the thing I will say. Practice makes perfect, even though you probably never get to be perfect. And then above all, when you are covering something, listen to the subject. When you're at a press conference, if it's like a few people and you're around and you're interviewing somebody, or just when you're doing a one-on-one interview, listen, because you may go into an interview with an idea of what the conversation's going to be, but then the subject may tell you something and then it opens up something else. And a good example was when I chatted with Trent Sherfield not too long ago, and I knew his background. I knew some things about him. I did not have a clue going in that he was going to talk about Pat Bryant and mentoring him. And that he just talked, and we were just going, had a conversation, and he brought that in, and that opened up a whole nother line of conversation. I try to go into an interview to be just open-minded and let things go. And then inevitably, I find in a lot of these conversations, something different comes out of it than I realized. And then maybe my story is different. So in a couple of days, I'm actually going to have a piece at denversports.com, a written piece out of just what I learned about Trent Sherfield and Pat Bryant. Then I talked to Pat Bryant, and I asked him about Trent Sherfield as well. And it's going to be, a couple of things from a couple of interviews, and it'll be a nice written story as well. So it's listening. When I cover a press conference as well, sometimes I'll go in and I'll have an idea of something I want to ask. Or a group interview. Sometimes it'll be the interview subject saying something, and I'll ask a follow-up question that tees off of something that they mentioned just a few minutes earlier. Like I like to ask the you just mentioned blank question, and then follow up with that. So that does two things. Number one, it sort of it means you're going on kind of their turf, their field, because you're following up on something that they brought up. Number two, when you ask it in that way and you say, you just mentioned that, those words sort of say, I heard you. I listened to you. I took note of something you said. And that's something that I think actually it hits a lot of people deeply, that you just said, like, hey, I heard you. Like you actually listen to me, that it wasn't just like this, this rote question and answer thing, that you actually were on a subconscious level. It's like, oh, you actually paid attention to what I said. And that is something that I find actually tends to yield some very insightful responses. And because the thing is, I'm not doing it to get a response. I am genuinely listening to what that person is saying. And there was actually a moment in the press conference a few days ago, not too long ago, where another person in the media started whispering in my ear something, and I got really upset with that person because I'm sorry, I didn't want to hear what that person was saying, what the person whispering in my ear was saying, because I was trying to hear what the subject at the press conference was saying. That's what I was interested in. I'm sorry, like not what somebody else was saying, with their own thoughts on it. I was trying to hear what the interview subject was saying. That was where my focus was, on the subject. So that's, again, I'm listening. I want to learn something. So that's the thing. So that's why I say, listen. That's the best thing you can do. Why is it so difficult to hear the questions of the coaches or players during a press conference? There's something they can do to correct the problem. I've been asked this before. They have their mics set up. I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that. Oh man, it's just their setup, and they don't hand the mic around for most press conferences, so that's why. Sometimes they do at the end of the season one. That's where I had a coughing fit when unfortunately, they handed me the mic, and I just swallowed some water, and it went down my windpipe, and it was just like, sounded like I was dying. So victory lap. I you're not late, because I don't know when I'm going to do this on a daily basis. So it's not, it's okay. So go 2:57 Central Time. Yikes. It's late. So late, it's early. Salute to you as well. Salute to all of you here. I've been on this for nearly an hour, and it's 1:01 in the Pacific time zone. I was just on the 1:01 or 10. It's actually just 1:01 here in Northern California. It's the 1:01 in Southern California. So I got to remember, I'm in NorCal right now. So I touched on, for the position battles, I touched on receivers, I touched on safeties, touched on D-line, touched on running backs. Interior offensive line is interesting as well. I'd say backup tackle, Frank Crum, Matt Peart, and Alex Palczewski. I think Palcho is pretty much a lock, though. Inside linebacker, Lavelle Bailey, I think, is a lock. Do any of the undrafted rookies end up sticking? J.B. Brown, Jordan Turner, Corene Reed, the three undrafted rookies that they've had around for a while. That would be one to keep an eye on as well. I think cornerback is probably set, barring injury. I think it's probably not good news for Damari Mathis. Chris Abrams-Drain, I think, is in very good shape to be on the 53. He's got a significant special teams role in all likelihood. So, and then tight end, I think Lucas Kroll's not going down easy, because he's flashed the last week or so making some plays. I actually think with Lucas Kroll, if he passes through waivers, I think he sticks around in the practice squad. But I don't know that he sticks on the 53, but I think they'd like to keep him around, at least on the practice squad, as somebody who can catch some passes if Evan Ingram gets hurt. But it's tough for him. There's probably not a spot for him on the 53, but he is not giving that spot up that he had last year easily. And you do have to admire that, the guys that, that maybe appear to be being replaced, but they're fighting with every inch of their being. That's something you do admire with these guys. So didn't get a notification. Well, hey, that's something you gotta subscribe, right? Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm gonna leave the never miss a vid to Orange and Blue today. So appreciate you checking in with that, Braxton. Like, listening is the best piece of advice that I can give. As I think it was Yogi Berra said, you can hear a lot if you listen, or something like that. By the way, the San Jose Giants Stadium, one of the favorite things I've ever seen in a baseball stadium, they had these little baseball quotes like all over like the portals as you go from the concourse to the stadium seating bowl, and I took some pictures of them. And there was actually one portal that was just nothing. That was like 4 quotes from Yogi Berra, like it ain't over till it's over, that sort of thing. The one that was missing, that's my personal favorite from Yogi Berra, is when you come to a fork in the road, take it. So, Lavelle Bailey, good chance to start this year. Only if Alex Singleton or Dre Greenlaw are hurt. Like, if one of them is down, I think he's got a good chance to step in and start. I think right now it's looking like he is the top guy to step in, with Justin Sternad then next behind him. Bailey's obviously had an excellent camp, brings some thump there as a backup inside linebacker, but he is the third guy, it would appear. Singleton and Greenlaw are your top 2. So, all right. Appreciate you joining me here tonight for Denver Football After Dark on this Saturday morning. And I know a lot of you watching this, you're going to watch this on delay on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, getting ready for Broncos preseason game number 1. Well, whenever you watch live or on delay, I appreciate you joining me as Siri. Thank you, Siri. Siri is always listening. Siri's always listening. It's scary when you think about it. Anyway, Denver Football After Dark for this Saturday morning. Plan to be with you for a post-game show for at least a little bit on Saturday night, late Saturday night, after I get my written story done and get back here to the hotel. So please join me for that. I don't know exactly what time it will be, but I will pop in here and we'll disseminate what we saw. I will have a brief post-game video when I get out of the Broncos locker room on Saturday evening. So look for that right here on this YouTube channel, as well as on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, on the Denver Sports Facebook, also on Threads and Blue Sky, etc. I'm on all the platforms basically. And I'll have a written recap after the game at denversports.com as well. And my Orange and Blue Today co-host Cecil Lammy, he will have a post-game show on YouTube at the Denver Sports YouTube channel. So if you want to get in on an immediate post-game show, he will be live with his own venting. And if you want to vent to him, I'm sure he will be there to take your messages and allow you to get things off of your chest. So appreciate you joining me on Denver Football After Dark for this Saturday morning. I'm going to get some sleep, get some rest, and then in the morning wake up, and my buddy Chris Thomason of the Denver Gazette will probably text me and ask where to go to for brunch. And we'll get our day started and get ready to cover the Denver Broncos against the San Francisco 49ers preseason game number 1, the start of the 2025 season journey of your Denver Broncos. Can't wait to dive into what we hope is a big, big, big season, and hopefully a year in which they advance at least a little further than they did last year. I know that is the goal from the top down, from Greg Penner on down, that another season in which they only go as far as they did last year will not be regarded as good enough from the big boss over there at Broncos HQ. Thanks for joining me here on Denver Football After Dark. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this. Tell your friends if you enjoyed this about this little more low-key Broncos conversation show, and I will be back to talk with you after the game late on Saturday night into Sunday morning, and we'll break it all down. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching.